America's mayor live. As you can tell, I'm not the mayor. You're stuck with Ted Goodman tonight. The mayor is enjoying a premiere screening of uh, what is one heck of a movie, and so we'll share more with you about that. The mayor is at Mar-a-Lago right now as we speak with hundreds of other great American patriots, and so we'll check in if we can with everything that's happening over there at Mar-Lago. The president is expected to be in attendance tonight. What they're doing is showing off this movie, Relentless Patriot, featuring Scott Lebedo, of course, a great patriot. Many of you are familiar with Scott and his work. Of course, he's a regular at the America First Warehouse in Ronkonkoma, a place that we all enjoy going to. And he's just someone who's just been so dedicated to the cause, right? When it comes to patriotism and defending America, and really, one thing, whether it's does he personify the values that make this country great? I'm sure through some of his artwork, I think that it's fair to say that, and him as a person, right? He personifies patriotism and what it means to have courage and to stand up for what is right. So the mayor, Dr. Maria, are over there. Stephen, many of you know Stephen from the show. He's over there, and of course, many of the people that you all know will be in attendance as well, including members of the president's team, of course, and other great patriots. A lot of New Yorkers are actually in town, so found that to be interesting. So chime in. This is going to be an audience-driven show tonight. Help me with some of the legwork tonight. Let us know what you're thinking, and of course, we're going to get right into it and what's happening there in Georgia. So we're going to start off with we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to start out with a commercial here early on. I'm going to get a few more things situated, and then we'll be right back, and we're going to get right into it. So strap up, get those seatbelts on, and get ready for the fastest hour on the internet.
Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
Wow, what an important message from our friends over at Tunnel to Towers. So please, $11 a month, and you can make a real difference for so many families that are hurting, right? Our first responders, firefighters. These are the individuals that are on the front lines of protecting us and our way of life. So let's do our part and support them and their families at in the midst of unspeakable times. So T2T.org, $11 a month. And you too can support the brave men and women who really protect us and serve others each and every day. Well, again, want to thank you for joining us tonight. I apologize. You're stuck with me all hour. The mayor is at Mar-a-Lago as we speak. So we're going to try and check in on what's happening over there at Mar-a-Lago when we can. You'll notice me looking down, right? I'm producing the show here tonight while also talking to all of you. I'm going to try and take some phone calls. So get ready for some phone calls later on in the show. And we also, we will hear from the mayor. The mayor, of course, as you know, he doesn't like missing shows. So I would expect to hear from him. Expect to hear from him here at some point in the hour. So we want to really hear from you. Kind of let us know what you're thinking about. What's on your mind here? The president, of course, President Trump, has achieved the necessary delegates to lock up the Republican nomination. Not that it was ever in question, but he's officially formally passed the magic number. That happening just yesterday, of course, where we had a number of states, including some out west, Alaska, and the great state of Washington, voting, and the Republican primaries throwing their support behind President Trump. On the Democrat side, of course, you have Joe Biden, who has apparently locked up the delegates necessary on his side of the aisle. And of course, we all know about RFK, right? Robert F. Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr., right? And his independent bid for the presidency. Of course, he's running as an independent because the Democrat Party, the fix is in, right? Just the exact same thing Hillary Clinton did to Bernie Sanders back in 2016. Remember that? People don't like to admit this, but, you know, in some ways, President Trump and Bernie Sanders, look, they're very different people. They're really different guys, right? But when it comes to kind of the populist side of things, and there was at least some crossover, right, between the two, the Bernie Sanders 2016 movement, and of course, the greatest, what I would argue is the greatest movement in American political history, the America First movement. But there were some similarities, right? Bernie Sanders was speaking out against the elite and the political parties, the system we have here, and how things have been done in Washington for quite some time. And of course, President Trump was as well. The difference between the two, Bernie Sanders completely folded, and he got ran over by the Democrat Party and the establishment folks over there. Meanwhile, President Trump, all the way around, right? He ran the establishment over, and he took over the Republican Party, and he made it very clear, no, the Republican Party doesn't call the shots. You don't get to decide who our nominee, the people's nominee, is for the party. And so where the Democrat Party in 2016 were able to shove through Hillary Clinton when a good amount of the base were not looking for Hillary, the Republican Party, they tried to do the same thing to Trump in 2016, folks, right? They tried to do the same thing, and it was through a number of ways, right? Well, they wanted to play games with the convention, right? They wanted to try to take it from them at the convention in the summer of 2016. That's why we had Mr. Manafort on the team. And then, of course, even at the 11th hour with that ridiculous, you know, whatever they, look, I'm to this day, right? This whole Access Hollywood tape, and how they tried to use that to take out Trump. And by the way, there were Republicans at the time. I'm not going to name names because I wouldn't want to get something like this wrong, but do your own research. Do your own research. Just days, weeks before the 2016 election, you had a number of prominent members of the Republican Party who came out and told Trump to get off the ticket, told him he couldn't be on the ticket for some silly video. Remember that? So the Republican Party tried to do what the Democrat Party successfully did to Bernie Sanders. The Republican Party tried to do that to Donald Trump in 2016, and of course it failed. But it worked on Sanders. So 2016, Bernie Sanders actually wins the Michigan Democrat primary. Look it up. He beat Hillary Clinton. And by the way, that was another sign that that told me Trump was going to do well, right? And remember, right, we have these national elections, but in reality, these national elections come down to very specific. Sorry, we're trying to bring this up here. It comes down to a few states, right? And so in 2016, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, right? Those few states really carried the day. And again, now this time around, watch closely here. Watch closely here at the, Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and these states. So when you're looking at these elections, right, it's not really an analysis nationwide. You really want to hone in on some of these key states and how we feel those states will go. And by the way, the numbers for President Trump just look great. The president is rocking it. When it comes to Michigan, for example, President Trump is up big. And that's a state tailor-made for President Trump and his message. That's why he won it in 2016, right? Democrats blame Republicans, Republicans blame Democrats. Meanwhile, the jobs kept leaving. So again, thank you for joining us. It's a very special evening. Unfortunately, the mayor is actually at Mar-a-Lago. So fortunately, right? Fortunately, the mayor's at Mar-a-Lago. So you're stuck with Ted tonight, but we're moving here. We're moving fast through the hour. We're going to head to another commercial so I can get a few things situated. And real shortly, you'll hear from the mayor. We're going to have the mayor on. So stay tuned, stay with us, and we'll be right back.
The new year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Welcome back. Of course, that's our friend Mike Lindell. Be sure to head over there to MyPillow.com. Hit that. Type in promo code Rudy. Sorry, I'm multitasking here as we do the show. But use that promo code Rudy and you will get huge savings at mypillow.com. Support the great patriot Mike Lindell, and by supporting Mike, you're also supporting everything we're doing here on America's Mayor Live. And if you'll excuse me, I'm working here. The mayor, as you know, he never wants to go a day without you guys. So he had this event tonight. And he asked me, Ted, I still gotta talk to my people. And so what we did is we filmed a nice piece with the mayor before tonight's event at Mar-a-Lago, and we're gonna play that here momentarily. So stick around. That's what you call a tease, right? It's how I keep you guys staying tuned for my part, right? With the promise that you'll hear shortly from America's mayor. Wow, and you know what? I don't even want to touch the Georgia stuff until you hear from the mayor. And maybe when we come back, we'll take some phone calls. How about that? Maybe we'll take some phone calls and get your thoughts on the matter. So we haven't done that in a while. So we might do some phone calls tonight. Great. So and apologize again. I'm also communicating with members of our team. They're helping us out here tonight. Mike and Rob, Steven as well. Thank you guys. You really help make sure we can do this on nights when the mayor's tied up, which isn't often, as you all know. What is this? Episode 363. This is the 363rd straight weekday of programming. I believe that's 73 weeks, almost 73 straight weeks. Many of you have been with us from the start. And so we want to thank all of you. And some of you, though, many of you, right? We've picked up along the way. And spread the message, right? Let folks know the mayor's here each and every night from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern. We often run over what we like to call soccer time. And tonight, I really want you to hear from the mayor. He's got a real good breakdown. So we're just moments away. You're moments away from hearing from Mayor Giuliani. He tonight is at Mar-a-Lago with the president and hundreds of other patriots enjoying a screening of The Relentless Patriot, a great, great documentary featuring a real good friend of the show that many of you know, right, in Scott Lebedo. And so I want to bring up some more info so you can see how you can watch this movie. And look, I wish I was there. Look, if we have our show though, and the mayor and I, we're never going to let you guys down. But I do wish I was watching this thing, right? It's a documentary on a great American patriot, Scott Lebedo. And I'm going to maybe we'll play the trailer here at the end. I'll try to get the trailer up for you, but Scott, for those of you that know him or have seen him on our show, just what a great American, stand-up guy. Really a role model. He's someone that you can look to and when you want to think of ways to give back, right? There's a lot of ways to serve and to give back and show your patriotism. And Scott is somebody who really personifies what it means to be a patriot. So we're moving right along here. We are getting some things in order for you. And we hope to have this ready to go here. Give us a few minutes and we'll be back. So thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on a very, very busy news night, right? There's we never finished the RFK thing. I wanted to talk to you guys about that. What do you think of RFK? He's named 2 potential running mates, right? One of them being Aaron Rodgers. By the way, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan. My whole life has been watching Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers play quarterback. And here we have Aaron Rodgers maybe being a vice presidential nominee. Look, this is President Trump's cycle, guys. As big of a Packer fan as I am, I'm obviously with the president all the way. So, Aaron, why don't you stick to quarterback one more year at least, right? And we could, maybe Team Trump could use you. Look, Aaron Rodgers is someone early on, for those that know football and know the Packers, right? Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, 2 different guys, right? 2 very different guys. Two of the best quarterbacks of all time in the NFL, but 2 very different people. Brett Favre being a Southern boy from Mississippi, right? Aaron Rodgers kind of being that California West Coast cool. But come to find out, I happen to agree with both of their politics. And Aaron Rodgers, although I don't know with Aaron if it's as partisan as it is cultural, right? He's a conservative, right? He's an America First patriot by all accounts. And I say that not because of anything he said when it comes to partisan politics, right? Republican versus Democrat, but because of his stance on the vaccine, because of his stance on individual responsibility, keeping the government out of our lives. Some of the things you've heard him say, right? It kind of tips you off to who he is and who he's likely supporting in 2024. Now, Aaron, I don't want to put any words in your mouth here, but we'd love to have you on. Maybe you could talk with Mayor Giuliani, huh? You want to come to New York and go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in this city's history? Let's do an interview with the greatest mayor in this city's history. And I'm rooting for you, by the way. I am. So, on that note, what I really want to do is get to the mayor's speech. So, we're going to take another short break, hear from our friends at QUX, while I work to fire up our clip with Mayor Giuliani.
Device is something that you can plug into your television, and now you can use your television as a social television type experience. So in the Portal universe, you can watch your favorite content creators' videos, live streams, music. We also have TV subscriptions as well.
Subscriptions.
You can also
regular channels, all the sports.
Right, you can actually cut your cable from your cable subscription and get QUX TV on our QX TV boxes, and you can pay half the price that you're currently paying for your cable television subscription, and you can get all the best premium TV channels and more. I mean, it's really, there's so much on there, Rudy. I mean, you've seen it.
No, I've seen it and I use it, and it's good. I mean, it's great. It's just exactly the same except for half the price. Plus, nobody is finding out what I'm watching, and that's not being reported to anybody.
Right, so you have absolute privacy using this device, which you don't have on other devices out there currently on the market.
This is absolutely great. QUX.TV is how you can find out about it. QUX.TV.
Use promo code Rudy to receive $30 off.
And we're back. So we're going to play. We have a special guest for everybody. And we're going to hear from the person you've been waiting for all hour, Mayor Giuliani.
Hello, it's Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor live from, you can see from Palm Beach, right? I mean, just look at me. I don't usually dress like this in New York, right? And I'm going to be off to Mar-a-Lago with all sorts of, all the people you love, like and Andrew, of course, the next president of the United States, Mr. Lebedo himself does all the paintings. Oh my goodness. I would think Frank Siller. I'm going to miss lots of. We're going to be there, but of course we're all there. Number one, to celebrate Scott's new movie, a documentary about him and about what I've said about him very, very often. That in after the attack of 9/11, that guy was like sent from heaven with the way he lifted me. Did I mean he lifted mine? So I'm a witness to it. I went to one, hadn't really known Scott that well. He does this 4-minute painting of the firefighters, you know, putting the flag up. And what am I looking at? To me, I'm looking at the Marines, right, on Iwo Jima. Iwo Jima, 9/11. Scott, man, thank you. I don't know if you realize that things like that, these morale boosters at a time of crisis, are so damn important. I mean, we look back at them and we realize it, but at the time they're going on, we don't really appreciate exactly what it is. But today I'm going to stay on for a few minutes, and then Ted is going to take over, because it's been a heck of a news day with a lot of stuff that isn't being covered by the creeps. But I'm going to cover my own case, and that is the fact that I was dismissed in 3 counts. There were 6 counts dismissed in the 420 count indictment. No, it isn't 420. It's a 41 count indictment, which is a complete load of garbage. And I can say that as probably the person who brought the most RICO indictments ever. RICO would be embarrassed of this. He would. And when I finish, I'm going to tell you who RICO is. So this is 41 counts of bull, and 6 are now gone. Now, 3 of them involve me. 3 involve President Trump. So that's 3 less against Trump, 3 less against me. We had the same number, which was 13. So we're down. He and I are down at 10 counts. They're not necessarily all the same counts. They overlap a little. So let me describe the counts to you and why they were dismissed. It's count 2, it's count 5, it's count 6, 23, 28, and 38. And really what they're based on is they don't give you any hint of what you did wrong. That's a legal concept known as sufficiency pleading. And you would get this, right? If you want to charge somebody with a crime, you got to tell them what they did wrong. Well, they didn't bother to do that. They didn't think it was necessary. We're supposed to guess precisely how we requested or opportuned people. I mean, how did we do it? I mean, you could send a message, you could send smoke signals. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to do it. A responsible prosecutor who has a case is able to lay out a way that you did it. Did it ever occur to you, or even the judge, that one of the reasons they didn't do it is they don't know, because they don't have a case? That's my only objection here. I mean, the judge threw out the 6 counts, but you go a lot deeper than this and say, how about we throw the whole damn thing out? I mean, if they can't at this stage allege how we did it, how are they bringing this historic case against the former president of the United States? What are we bringing on? Spit? I mean, this is ridiculous. Two is the first one. Count two is the first one that he threw out. I have a little chart here so I can follow these stupid things. Count two involves me, Professor Eastman. You're gonna love the last one. Ray Smith, Ray Smith was actually our lawyer in Georgia. So he and I are basically in all the same counts because he was what we call my local counsel. And then, of course, my chief assistant, Jenna Ellis, is named. Ha, you remember Jenna Ellis. You're going to really be a kind of a surprise to her. He just dropped the count. She pled guilty. She pled guilty to no crime. Not the first time. Cohen did that too. That's what happens when you have these dishonest prosecutors. They bring cases. And then the case get dismissed as no crime, even though some got intimidated into pleading. So count two alleges that the four of us on December 3rd, 2020, requested or opportuned someone to act unlawfully as a presidential elector. Now, they don't bother to where, why. And since I never did it, it's going to be really hard for me to defend myself. So I don't know what they're talking about. Now, I never asked anyone to act as a presidential elector illegally in any way. I asked them to act as a substitute should the legislature or the Congress throw out the legislators that were there. You think I made that up? No. That was done in the Nixon-Kennedy election in 1960, in which there was a dispute over the state of Hawaii. The dispute didn't get resolved, actually, until after the Electoral College met here. And I'm going to forget if it switched from Kennedy to Nixon or Nixon to Kennedy, but the person who was losing originally had several people line up as electors so that when the decision was made, he could have some people to vote for him. And they did, and no one found it unconstitutional, illegal, or anything. It's happened in other ways several times. So we followed the advice professors who wrote up the memo explaining this, and we followed it in good faith. And they gave it in good faith. They subsequently all indicted, some of them fired. I'm surprised they weren't burned at the stake. What the hell is illegal about that? We weren't pretending they were the electors. We didn't say they were the electors. We had no power to get Congress to put them in. Here's why they were there. A state is in dispute. Electoral College meets. You elect electors. 2 weeks later, a court says, no, Electoral College was wrong. We overrule it, as they did in the Kennedy-Nixon election. Now, here's what happens. If you haven't set up alternate electors, you get no votes. It becomes a zero. Nobody goes to the Electoral College for Hawaii or for, pick the state, Georgia. If you have picked, those alternative electors can then be certified and you get the 3 votes or the 4 votes. Otherwise, you don't get any votes. So I'm going to give you a different twist on this. Suppose that Eastman and I and Jenna and came up with this. Suppose we had decided not to do this. And suppose that had happened. We could have been sued for malpractice. Yeah, for malpractice. Because we would not have given our client the benefit of a legal remedy that's available to him. Don't these people know what a lawyer does? A lawyer represents a client to the best of their ability, vigorously, and gives the benefit of the doubt to their client. When they come to me and say they may overturn, and they're doing a proceeding overturning Hawaii, I don't say, no, they're not. I'm not going to do anything. I make sure that if we prevail, we're protected. I'm telling you, in most of these cases, if not all of these, and it just doesn't apply to me, it applies to all the lawyers they've persecuted. If those lawyers hadn't done what they're being persecuted for, they'd have been disbarred because they would have been good lawyers. Every single thing that the Washington bar and the New York bar are charging me with, had I done the opposite, they'd have disbarred me for acting in bad faith and malpractice. Well, this is one example. Well, the judge was smart enough to toss it right out on its backside. So there goes one count against 4 defendants. Then he moved on to count 5. Now, count five involves just, I believe, the few counts that I had 1, 2, that involves a singular defendant. And the singular defendant was Donald J. Trump. And it's the count in which he requested the Speaker of the Georgia House of Representatives to assist appointing presidential electors. And they put in words like to have the Speaker violate his oath of office. And they say he importuned him. I'm not sure I know what the word importune mean. One of the reasons it got dismissed is even here to charge a crime. But here's what is crazy about this. First of all, he never asked the guy to violate his oath of office. There's no violation of his oath of office to name an alternate elector. Basically, you say elector if the court or the legislature changes the vote and says it was wrong, it was incorrectly counted, the votes are going to be awarded from Biden to Trump. Or if you don't have electors named, ready to go in immediately, you don't get any votes. So you zero out the other guy's vote, but you don't pick up, you only get half the value of the change, which would mean that if the lawyers didn't do this, they'd be engaged in malpractice. Now, here's why it's a totally ridiculous charge against Trump. He's not a lawyer. He was following the advice of 5 lawyers here. He's told that Kennedy and Nixon did this. What's he supposed to do? His own independent research and say, no, I'm going to disagree with my lawyers? First of all, he could read it if he wanted to. It's all there. These prosecutions, and you can't take them like one at a time like this. Otherwise, we're going on. These are so smell. And they really are smelling up the entire state of Georgia. It's almost like there's no justice system in Georgia. And it's really getting the reputation, Fulton County, of being completely corrupt. So that single count against Trump is dropped. The first count that was dropped was against not President Trump. Count 6 does not involve President Trump. It involves me, and it involves my co-counsel, Mr. Smith. And this is also another one of these people to act as presidential, requesting or importuning them to act as electors. This one was on December 10th. The earlier one was on December 3rd. This is thrown out for the same reason. It doesn't give me enough information to defend myself. That's good because I don't remember. I don't know what they're talking about. So you should know I don't know half the people in the indictment by name or sight. And also one of the people in the indictment who pleaded guilty said she never talked to me about this. Sydney took her testimony that she never talked to me. How can we have a conspiracy? We didn't talk. What did we do about smoke signals? Sydney, see? So that one is thrown out against me and Smith. So now I'm 2 thrown out. Count 23 is the next one thrown out, and this one involves 23 involves Rudolph Giuliani. Let me get the rest of them here. and Ray Smith, and I believe it's Robert Chelsea. That's right. Robert Chelsea pled guilty, unfortunately, but he's not guilty. This case has been thrown out. This is also a December 30th request for presidential electors, which, by the way, is entirely 100% both legal and covered by precedent. Again, the Nixon Kennedy election. There is no crime. This is the time-honored Bidenista Clinton Justice Department make up crimes because these people are innocent and we're going to persecute them. Then we go to count 28, and this count 28 is a really interesting one. And this is against Trump and Meadows on January 2nd for essentially doing the same thing other people were charged with. This is the second charge against Trump doing this. First one's already been thrown out, and that is for, once again, importuning or influencing people to be certified electors. Again, they don't charge enough to understand what the crime is, and the case is thrown out against Meadows and Trump, leaving only one other count against Meadows. So he's down to one count. And the final one is defendant Trump by himself. And if I recall correctly, this is really the main count in the indictment, the one that caused this whole investigation in the first place. And that is the call from Trump to Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, and it charges that Trump requested or importuned him to unlawfully decertify the election. And the count is thrown out. With that count thrown out, with the incredibly criminal behavior of the people prosecuting this case, which are a black mark on the judicial system of Georgia and the United States. And the main count going out, the whole damn thing should be thrown out on a new legal principle, smelling up the courthouse with partisan political crap, because that's what it is. With two prosecutors who, I don't know, should be running some kind of a vacation service where they can figure out who to steal money from to go on vacation, or maybe how to take money out of their election account so that they can use it for personal expenses. So this gets it down to 10 counts against me, 10 counts against Trump, 1 count against Meadows, 6 against Smith. All the rest are equally as devoid of merit, some even worse than this. But again, the main count is now gone, and that is the conversation with Raffensperger. What kind of case is left? Persecution. That's what's left. Now let's really get to the heart of this, or are we going to cover this up? Because it's crooked Georgia. There are 2 things that were done here that are extraordinarily serious that have to be followed up, and we're going to stick on this like you can't imagine. One, who looks to me like a thoroughgoing crook, admitted during her testimony under oath, largely because she isn't the brightest bulb, that she took cash from her campaign account, cash available to pay back her lover for all the money he spent on her that came from government funds, none of which there's a single receipt for. Of course, you know that's a load of crap, right? I mean, you just know that. But to make it even worse, she now says that she got the money because she isn't very smart, as well as crooked. That's an admission of a crime. Why the crooks in Fulton County aren't jumping up and down? Maybe they all do it. I don't know. Maybe that's what you do in Fulton County. You take the campaign money and go to the Bahamas. This may be the way things are done there. So it didn't shock anybody that she was stealing campaign money. Maybe you're entitled to do it if you're a Democrat in Fulton County. Maybe that's why so many of their mayors have gone to jail. But the reality is, why are we forgetting about it? This is a real crime. Unless she's got an explanation for it, I haven't thought of. Right in the middle of her testimony, and Ted will play it for you a little later. Right in the middle of her testimony, she says, I took money from my campaign account and I kept it. And she's using it as an explanation for why she had so much cash around, so she could pay her boyfriend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for frequent vacations in the middle of a very intense case. They spent more time on vacation than they did working on the case. And you paid for it. She says she paid him back. But again, she paid him back with your money. She paid him back with campaign money. I don't know which of the crimes you'd like to prosecute her for. How about both? But how about getting the case dropped so that she doesn't try to put me in prison for the rest of my life? The second one is equally as serious in the sense that she said that she didn't start her affair with this creep until after she hired him, sometime after she hired him. The problem is there are 4 to 5 witnesses who say the opposite. As well as enormous numbers of documents that are circumstantial evidence. But when you combine it with the 5 witnesses, there's no doubt she was having an affair with him before that he was hired by her. You've got his partner saying that. You've got his other partner saying that. You have her best friend saying that. You have another one of the people in the DA's office saying that. And then you have something like 2,000 or 3,000 messages between the two of them during that time period. You have a period of time twice where he stayed at her apartment all night and left at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That's registered. You have a number of locations that show that he was hanging around there every night for about 8 months. He was there every night in that area. Well, they say, well, it wasn't exactly her apartment, but she won't give up the records that would allow you to search to figure that out when she'd be able to prove it. But she hasn't given you the documents to prove it. But in any event, you do have to definitely prove that he was there until 4 or 5 in the morning. And you've got 2,000 emails back and forth between 2 people who weren't lovers, who then became lovers later. Who, by the way, 4 or 5 friends would testify were lovers. Why is that important? That's important, one, because she committed perjury. But she didn't commit perjury just for the heck of it. She committed perjury because if she hired him as her lover, a direct conflict of interest, none of this indirect or appearance of conflict of interest. But let's get to the heart of it. Why did she really hire this numbskull lawyer who can't do a damn thing, right? Never tried a case, doesn't know what RICO is, but he couldn't tell you a thing about RICO. Why'd she hire him? The money? They could whack up the money, go on great vacations. Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, she doubled the number of grand juries so they could double the amount of money, for which, by the way, she should be charged again for that. But there's another reason. She needed somebody she could trust to do the deal, because this is a crooked deal with the White House. What's this stumblebum lawyer who can't try a RICO case and never try to go into the White House twice, right in the middle of this, and charging, for 24 hours of legal services? But unless he's a liar, he was doing legal work in the White House. Well, he wasn't representing Biden. What's the legal work he was doing? How to fix this case so that it becomes another interference with Trump running. How to schedule it. I mean, it's totally absurd that a man is is going to be tried 4 times in the same year on major felonies. That's unheard of. It would be at any other person, any other place, the cases would get dismissed. Simple motion, Judge, how can I possibly prepare to defend my client on 4 major felony trials, all happening within a month of each? That, Your Honor, that's an automatic violation of due process. They have just demonstrated their bad faith. They've demonstrated that they have no interest in his getting a fair trial. And by the way, the government is supposed to have as great an interest in my getting a fair trial as it is convicting me. And if it has an interest in my getting a fair trial, orchestrated so that 4 cases are tried in the same year. And if you don't think that's what they were talking about in the White House, why don't they release the transcript of what they were talking about? Well, why is it that nobody's asked him any questions? Is Biden still that protected, that sacrosanct? Men and women could go to jail for the rest of their life based on this, and we can't ask this bum what he was doing in the White House? And the judge doesn't even bring it up on his own? I mean, this case can't end until we get an answer to what was Wade doing in the White House all that time? What was he talking about? We're talking about maybe they were all gossiping how, Biden gets lost walking around the stairs and he gets lost in the weeds, or that you got to feed him the ice cream now. Who knows what? But it's too relevant. Not you can't come out getting testimony as to what Ward was talking about in the White House. After all, he was getting paid crooked money in order to do it. And I think once you find out what he was talking about, you got another crime called obstruction of justice. I mean, you got some crimes immediately, like stealing campaign funds. She did that. Perjury. She did that. Right, straight out. Both of them. Now we want to know, what were the conversations with the White House about? I mean, is it wrong for us to, as position most beneficial to us, which we're allowed to do, is that they were conspiring to make sure that this fit in with Bragg's phony case, with Hitman Smith's phony cases? I mean, they all are phony cases. You could say that Smith is the guy that you would pick out of a scrapbook as the guy to try a false frame up for you. If you wanted a guy with a record of doing that, you would pick Smith. Somebody who'll frame Trump and has a record of framing people. Oh, we got the guy for you. His name is Smith. He got reversed by the Supreme Court 9-0. Remember when he screwed the governor of Virginia? He tried him. Turned out there was no case. But they didn't find out until he got thrown out of office. We really got that guy good. The Supreme Court says some nasty things about him, but what do we care? Screw the Supreme Court. We're going to try to destroy it anyway if we get another term. That's how Smith got selected. Bragg, I think the people of my city, if they could, would erect a Trojan horse and try to send it anywhere. I mean, any place you could send him. I think maybe a desert island might be good. The guy has caused more mayhem, more crime, more unnecessary death in this city than any DA in our history. So we're going to, I mean, we really picked him, didn't we? Food was just one thing for you to chew over, okay? It's not political. Is there a single Republican prosecutor? A single Republican? Is there a single prosecutor without unbelievable blemish on their career? And Bragg, who violates his oath of office every day. Fani, the campaign cash thief. Also, the person who steals money from the federal government to go on vacations with her lover that she lies about. And Smith, who gets cases reversed by the Supreme Court for trying innocent people. And the reason I point that out is when Garland, who's as big a crook as all of them, because you wouldn't pick him if you weren't a crook. When Garland picks him, Garland damn well knows who he's picking. He's sure as hell not picking a guy that's purer than Caesar's wife. Ooh. I don't know how pure Caesar's wife was, but this guy's a freaking abomination. Well, that's the benefit of my thoughts on my case and Donald Trump's case. I'm going to see President Trump later. I'm sure he'll be in a good mood as we watch these cases crater on themselves. Cases, each one of them is as bad or worse than this one. And we got to straighten these cases out if we want justice again in America for all of us, not just for me, not just for Trump, but for all of us. A lot of people here are just regular people who did nothing wrong, never met me, never met Trump. They just wanted to make it look good so they could have 20, whatever, 41 it. Well, thank you. And we'll keep you posted on what happens at Mar-a-Lago. Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risk their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now.
Well, get your $11 in, right? Just $11 a month, you can make all the difference to the families of these first responders and all those heroes that have paid the ultimate sacrifice so that others may live and others may be with their families. So, what an incredible breakdown, as we just said, from the mayor on what's happening in Georgia in what is clearly a completely 100% politically motivated case, right? Then this is the Georgia election interference case, right? Totally politically motivated, needs to be thrown out completely, and that's really the only way to restore any sense of justice and confidence in the American judicial system, right? This case needs to be thrown out immediately. And of course, we look forward to Miss Willis and Mr. Wade being held accountable for what at this point is still alleged, but this what appears to be massive examples of prosecutorial misjustice, right? Misconduct. And so we're expecting that decision to come down pretty soon here, and that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But really, the only way to restore confidence in our system and to bring back some integrity in the justice system, this whole thing needs to be thrown out, right? This is very clearly part of a larger effort to keep President Trump out of the White House, and it's also meant to send a message. That's why they're going after the mayor. That's why they're going after some of these other folks. They want to send a message, not just to President Trump and not just to Mayor Giuliani, but to everybody else. This is what will happen if you want to speak up. This is what will happen if you attempt to speak out. This is what will happen if you take on the establishment powers that be. They're trying to show, and it's failing, right? It's failing. President Trump's only growing stronger. Mayor Giuliani is only feeling even more emboldened with the actions that these corrupt Democrat prosecutors are taking, right? And we say Democrat because it has happened to align with today's Democrat Party, a lot of the more communist and Marxist tactics that we're seeing. But remember why President Trump won. He won because he was willing to speak out against both major political parties and the fact that they had sold out the working man and the working woman decades ago, right? With piss poor trade deals like the NAFTA and what was coming up, the TPP. I was taught in school that was inevitable, right? Free trade. President Trump comes along and he says, look, we can work with free trade, but it's also got to be fair trade, right? He's the man that was willing to speak up in front of automotive executives in Detroit. They told me, you know what, we're building the cars here now, right? And he said, that's what we're doing. We're going to find a way to make that happen. He didn't accept the status quo or, this is how things are done now in a globalized economy. This is just what has to be accepted. All these great paying jobs, they all left Michigan, right? Democrats blame Republicans. Republicans blame Democrats. Meanwhile, the good paying jobs kept leaving. Meanwhile, these once great Midwestern cities have been hollowed out. And now they're just a shell of their former selves. I can name countless cities across Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. And when I say this about these places, it's not to disparage them, right? It's not to disparage them, but it's to remind folks of what I grew up. I'm 32 now. What we grew up being told is this is just the default. This is just what happens, right? Going around Jackson, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Pontiac, all these cities, Michigan, Saginaw, Flint. I mean, these are places I went to school. I know them very well. Some of the best people on the planet Earth. And these places were sold out by both major political parties. And by the way, Michigan, I'm giving you some examples, my home state of Michigan. I'm sure you guys can think of places in your neck of the woods, right? All across this great country. Decades and decades of poor policy decisions. Decades and decades of both major political parties selling out the working man and the working woman to the benefit of a few. Meanwhile, our once great cities in this country have been all but hollowed out, right? Our middle class has been decimated, right? People now, we all know people that are working 2 jobs and they're still struggling to make ends meet. And this notion that the Democrat Party somehow they're the party that's looking out for the working man and the working woman, that hasn't been true for 80, 90 years. I can't, look, there was a time when the unions, when they fought for actual, good, legitimate safety concerns, right? Or the 40-hour work week. There was a time and a place for unions and when they fought for those sorts of things. And it was there was a need for that. Not anymore. These unions, the biggest unions in America, have been completely corrupted by those with communist leanings, Marxist, this new woke ideology, which I still don't totally understand where that's coming from. These unions they're not looking out for working people, right? Unions nowadays, they look out for the worst of the worst. And it's actually a penalty to high achieving employees. I mean, take a look at teachers unions, right? Who needs a teachers union more than anybody? A lazy teacher, a teacher that's not doing their job, a teacher that has no, isn't actually doing anything for the students, right? They're only in it for themselves, and the administration now at a lot of these schools, right? They're not. The last thing that they're thinking about is what's good for the student. So to bring it back, right? To bring it back, of course, we're talking about unions there, and Democrat Party supposedly being the party of the working man. Well, President Trump turned that notion on its head, And that's why he won Michigan in 2016. That's why he won Pennsylvania. That's why he's going to do so well in these states again this cycle, right? He was willing to say the things that, frankly, people on both sides of the two major political parties were unwilling to say. President Trump came along, just said it like it was, called out Republicans and Democrats. And by the way, you can tell he was over the mark based off of the enemies he had and the people that turned on him, right? So for me, it's not even, I can look at President Trump and what he's saying, and I agree with a lot of it. But what I can also do is look at who's really opposed to him, right? Who doesn't want this guy to win? And that should tell you a lot about the man. And it was the Democrat Party. It was the Republican Party at the time, right? It was at the time a lot of people in New York on Wall Street, although they've come around, right? Now they realize, my goodness, look what Joe Biden's doing. Academia, right? Those in academia, the Washington permanent political class. Trump wasn't one of them. I don't care how much money Trump has. He wasn't part of that DC political permanent class that, continues to run things no matter who ends up being in the White House, right? To these folks, it's, okay, who do we have to work around for 4 years or maybe 8, right? Well, Trump came along and he wasn't playing that game, right? He was willing to take on issues and policies that, frankly, neither party before him had the guts or the courage to speak about, to talk about, to tackle. And so we expect to see even more here on his second time around. So I want to thank all of you. Thank you for joining us. I apologize. You got a good amount of the mayor. He basically came in for half the show here. But we want to thank you all for all that you do in supporting the mayor and supporting everything we're doing here. We'll have the mayor back again tomorrow night. So, we just had this one night without him. He'll be back. Don't you worry. So tune back in. I feel like the guy, and he was a great guy, by the way. Who was it? Stein? The person that would come in for Rush Limbaugh, right? When Rush would take a day off, and you know what I'm thinking here, right? You know the exact feeling when you're going in to listen to Rush for the day, and boom, on comes a different voice. And it's not fair to those people because Rush was the best, right? But I kind of feel like that tonight, right? Where you're coming on and expect to hear from the mayor, and then here is Ted. Ted pops up all of a sudden. So we'll be back. You'll have the mayor tomorrow night. I'll be back on the other side of the screen where I belong. And so I just want to thank all of you for continuing to support everything that we do on America's Mayor Live. And we will see you back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Wherever you're watching tonight, you can watch again tomorrow night. And we'll hear all about the mayor's trip to Mar-a-Lago. And on that note, I'm actually headed back over there. So I too will share with you anything that we see or learn as November fast approaches. So thank you. God bless America. God bless the people of Israel. And God bless all of you. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow night for another live and exciting episode of America's Mayor Live with America's Mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
To bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. It was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world. The greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,